Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Gran Turismo 7 Daily Race and Strategy Guide. We're off to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta and we are in the Group 3 machinery. It's not a combo that we do particularly often, but it's certainly been done in the past. We've got 13 laps to get around in this one, tyre wear at times 5, fuel at times 2. It's just the racing soft tyres that are available. There's no mandatory rules in terms of pit stops or tyre change, which is going to prove to be the big talking point of this video. BOP is on, damage is light, it's a rolling start, slipstream is real, and settings allowed are just the brake balance at the moment because the tuning bug is still in the game, but in the detailed settings it does say that settings allowed are partial suspension and partial differential. So I suspect if the game gets patched during the week, there'll probably be setups available in this one, but that remains to be seen when the fix for the tuning bug comes in. But let's move on to our race action here. It's the 8 o'clock race as it is now in the UK since the clocks have changed, but it is the first live race or the first daily race that goes live of the week that we have entered as usual. And as usual, it's a pretty good field of drivers out there. As Tidgley does his video at this time, so a lot of the TCR boys are in there, as well as some other very good drivers as well. Pretty much all A+ from what I can remember. There might be a couple of A's sneaked in there, but yeah, it's a competitive field for the time of day it is here in the UK when we jump into this one. So everybody is in a standard livery, of course. We're in the Toyota FT1. There's a few Porsches out there, there's an Alfa Romeo, there's a Supra, there's BMWs, I think Blue Racers and the McLaren out at the front. So a good variety of cars as well. Hopefully that will remain a thing as the week progresses. But there is a little bit of a problem with this race which may well kind of rule out the vast majority of cars. As I said, we will get into that as the race unfolds. So just looking to survive the very first lap here, Road Atlanta. Pretty tricky little course, lots of blind corners up here. Don't ever right up behind a car in front of you, try to find the kind of turn-in point and hit these apexes can be a little bit difficult. So just looking to survive the first laps here and see how this race unfolds or starts to shape up as we get into it a little bit. So dropping a little bit behind Tidgley here, who's putting Shelty in the Supra under a little bit of pressure, but it's lap 1, so you can easily make that time back up as the concertina effect is in full effect, if you like, as the cars are all so close together at this early stage in the race. The rolling start's pretty good on this one, to be fair. Coming towards the end of lap 1, we're only 5.3 seconds off the lead in last place. Coming down into the chicane, there's going to be some moves made here, but everybody behaving themselves pretty much to an extent, I would say. There's a little bit of contact here. Tidgley gets compromised on the exit, means we touch the back of Tidgley there and they fell a little bit behind. We're going to jump forward here to lap 3. We've moved up one place. The Shadow in the Alfa Romeo had spun out, and Shelty is going to discover why, and he knows this, I'm perfectly well fine, why you should never go through a ghosted car if you do not need to. So we move out for the Hungarian ghosting. Shelty tries to go through the ghost and gets to the little bug where the car doesn't actually ghost in time. I think it's because when you're really close to the car in front, that's most likely to happen, but I think it can happen in other circumstances as well. But I will admit I was laughing my head off there when that happened, but it allowed us to move up a couple of positions. So the Belgian Sean there is going to get run a little bit wide in the Lexus from the Finn in the Porsche, who was not happy with that move in the chat. I think the Finnish driver could have left a little bit more room. That put us in a Finnish sandwich at the time as well. And then we've got two Porsches here going to go through the chicane really slowly here, going to compromise me a little bit because I had to take such a slow line through the chicane. I had to sort of come off the throttle here into the last corner, and that's going to allow Shadow to go down the inside of me into turn 1. We're going to have some really good racing here, side by side through turn 1. Not quite side by side, but we kind of, you know, managed to both get through there. It's going to allow Buda and the Nissan GTR, the Hungarian driver, to go down the inside here. We're going to try and hold on to it for as long as possible. Good driving from both of us there to go side by side through such a tricky corner before we had to kind of just back out to survive another day. We were certainly in the worst position out of the two as we exit that corner. But we didn't give the fight up here. We're going to go try and go down the outside of the Hungarian driver a lap later. Going to compromise their line a little bit. We've got the finish driver in the Porsche has got a half-second penalty up ahead, so we should be able to move ahead of the finish driver once they serve that. But one thing that really surprised me here was just how slow this Nissan GTR is in a straight line. Once this FT1 got fully in the slipstream, look at how much we're able to gain down here. We're going to have a little bit of a Schumacher Hakkinen Zonta moment down into the chicane, if you remember that from the 2000 Belgian Grand Prix, very famous overtake. But I had seen that my tyres were in very bad shape, so decided I was going to come into the pits. Now I knew I had done some pit stop practice, so I had in the time trial part of the game before this race went live, and I had already knew that the pit loss was going to be 25 seconds. That'll come up on the screen in just a wee second. And I knew that was also going to present an issue for this race, because I was pretty confident that very, very few cars and drivers are going to be able to get their car to the end of the race without changing the tyres and still have some tread. But I also knew that some drivers were not going to bother pitting. They would much rather just drive on the dead tyres, losing 3 to 4 seconds a lap, if as much as that. I think it's more like 2.5 seconds here, because it's just worth it for the last 3 laps. If your tyres are dead, you're not going to lose 25 seconds. And we came out the pits there, 40 seconds behind Blue Racer. As we jump to the end of the race here, we have got that gap down to under 32. So we have gained a lot of time back, but yeah, this is going to be the problem with this race. Unfortunately, it's going to be no stop on the soft tyres. It's going to limit the cars that you're going to be able to use, because everyone's going to have to use cars that are very good on tyres, like the McLaren. I wouldn't be surprised if you see people in the old 1997 Supra as well, because that's very good on tyres. So yeah, that is essentially the problem with this race. It's kind of apt with the video we just put out recently that, you know, settings are killing sport mode, and unfortunately PD have got one setting very wrong here. Now, if you think of all the races that we've had where we've had a mandatory pit stop where you didn't have to change the tyres, it didn't make any sense. This was the perfect race to put in a mandatory pit stop, because it would have given a pretty big pit window, to be honest with you. So yeah, I kind of in the post-race chat, I suspect the top 3 should be disqualified. Now, if you watch my streams, I've kind of always said if you finish the race with no tread on your tyres, you should be disqualified. But let's just check out, did the top 3 finish with any tread? Well, Blue Racer certainly didn't. He actually ran out of tread on lap 10. Tidgney, he's got no tread on 2 tyres. I think he ran out of tread on lap 11. But the problem really is that you just don't lose enough time. Look, Tidgney's still doing 19.2s, 19.9s. I was doing low 18s on the fresh tyres, so you're just not losing enough time when the tyres get this bad. I've harped on long enough about the tyre wear model. Let's not go there again, you know my thoughts and feelings on that. Shelty did a good job on the tyres, to be fair. He only ran out of tyres midway through the last lap, so the Supra looks like it might be quite good on tyres, or either that Shelty is very good on tyres. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this kind of let's drive on completely dead tyres. When the game's telling you the tyre's dead, you should have to change the tyres. So that is the problem for this one. I don't really know what more to say on it. You know, it's going to, as I said, the strategy for this one is going to have to be a no-stopper, and it's going to completely rule this race out for a lot of players, because there's a lot of players out there who are going to run out of tyres on laps 8, 9 and 10, and they're going to have to drive 5 laps with dead tyres. They're going to get absolutely monstered by the people who are better on tyres, and it's just going to put this race off for a lot of people. A mandatory pit stop was all it needed. A mandatory pit stop could have meant you could have pitted from like lap 3, you know, to try and get an undercut, or if you you could have went on to like lap 10, 11, if you want to try and do like an overcut of some sort. We'd had a huge kind of window there of kind of strategy and pit kind of times. Obviously the optimal would be pit lap 6, but if you're trying to kind of get out of traffic and try and make a strategy work, then you would have a window there. It would at least be workable. And it would also have meant we could have driven pretty much any car around here. I think every car would be competitive enough that you could have had a wide selection of cars as well. But yeah, just the one setting missed out. That's all they had to do to make this race really good. As it is, I think it's going to be ruled out for a lot of people because the tyre wear will just be too severe. There will be certain drivers out there who will be able to do the no-stop, save the tyres, get to the end, no problem whatsoever, but 75% of the drivers are not going to be able to do that. But yeah, that's this race in a nutshell. Hopefully this guide has been useful in some way, shape or form. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.